Go.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Monday, June 8th Lake County School Board meeting. We will now take a moment for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our Vice Chair, Mr. Mathias.
All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again for everyone joining us tonight. Do we have any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda tonight?
I have a few, Madam Chair. First of all, we're going to be pulling 8.27. That is the hurricane grant. The state has advised us that they want to make a change to the form, and so they're going to send us a new copy of that. So we need to pull that one. It'll come back with the revised form whenever we get that from the state. Also, we're pulling 8.29 for no action. That will be coming back to you at a later time. You have a revised HR personnel transaction list. That's item 9.01 that was revised today, and you've been provided a copy. And revisions were also made to item 9.04 for the Education Foundation Board, and you provided a copy of that change as well.
Okay. Any other board members?
No, ma'am.
Okay, looks like none. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes.
I recommend approval of the minutes from the School Board Workshop, May 4th, 2020, School Board Workshop, May 11, 2020, and regular School Board meeting, May 11, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Representation. 4.01, we have District High School Athletic Recognition, Mr. Don Hogan.
I asked something beforehand. I have somebody in. I don't know. Can I ask Mr. Randolph, do you know if your guest is in here? I hate for it to be recognized and not be in here, but I have a different email, so I'm a little concerned about it.
Absolutely. I know that we were trying to get a hold of her. Coach Boyer, were we able to get a hold of her? It's Wally DeLeon.
I just talked to her on FaceTime. She said that she was waiting in the lobby to be allowed in.
All right, so she must be the Galaxy. Okay, I have a different email. I think I know who it is then. Here we go.
One of the typical
I just wanted,
kids.
Don, Mr. Hogan, I didn't want her to recognize somebody who wasn't in here yet.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, yes, that does look like
Success.
maybe somebody we'd like to honor.
All right, perfect timing. There we go. Good evening, Superintendent, school board, parents. Tonight, we would like to recognize our winter sport weightlifting state champion from Leesburg High School, DeLeon Cruz. Some of DeLeon's accomplishments and records during the 2020 state championship weightlifting season are she was the school co-record holder for the bench with a lift of 120 pounds. She is the school record holder for the clean and jerk with the lift of 140 pounds. She's the school record holder for the combination of those categories. She is also the district, regional, and state champion in the 101-pound weight class. Really some great accomplishments. Also, her team under Coach Josh Boyer, they were runner-ups 2 years in a row for the team state championship. So Coach has done an outstanding job with the team too. DeLeon is going to, later on this summer, join the military. So
Well done.
we're so proud of her. We've got your state champion medal here. We can't put it on you, but I will get it to the high school, and I'm sure Coach Boyer or Mr. Randolph or somebody will get it to you. We normally have you go around and shake hands and take pictures and fist pump with everybody, but that's a little tough.
We're doing
during
a
this
Zoom.
time. Yeah. But I thought Coach Boyer might want to say one or two quick things. And Coach, you've got the floor.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank you. You know, these are crazy times, and to keep DeLeon and her accomplishments in your thoughts, you know, it's wonderful to say the least. these kids put in a tremendous amount of work, and she is an example of the student athlete that every coach would want in an athlete, to be perfectly honest. Extremely loyal, hardworking, meticulous in how she approaches her sport. And for you guys to make sure that she receives some form of recognition, albeit, in the day and age that we're in right now, is truly appreciated on our part. So I know she's very thankful. She's an outstanding girl, and I hope that I can get more like her in the future. Thank you.
Great
Well
words, Coach. Thank you very much. And DeLeon, congratulations. And we wish you much success, and we will get you your state championship medal. And Coach, congratulations on a great season.
Yes,
Is
congratulations,
DeLeon
Coach.
on, I can't find her.
On our screen, she's on the bottom to the
Did
right.
she want to, did she want to talk at all?
Would you like to, DeLeon?
Maybe she can't. Well, we sent her tons of congratulations. Please talk, Mr. Randolph.
Well done.
Well,
Congratulations.
I am so proud of DeLeon. She's awesome, and she's done such an amazing job just representing Leesburg High School with pride. Her work ethic is bar none. One of the best on campus by far, male or female. So she's outlifting some of our male athletes right now at only 98 pounds. So she's an impressive young lady. And again, this is becoming old hat for us. This is Coach Boyer has done a great job with our girls weightlifting team, 2 years in a row of runner-up, state runner-up. So we are excited, and train keeps rolling next year.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you all. That was fabulous. Congratulations, DeLeon.
Okay.
So next we have our, big props. Next we have our public input. I believe, Ms. Weisskopf, I believe we have Stuart Clapp first.
Sure, give me just 1 second. Let me let him in.
Okay.
Mr. Klatt, I think you're up.
All right, can you hear me okay? All right,
Yes.
all right. Just looking at the agenda, teachers for the last 2 or 3 years have received no raises because we have no money.
Mr. Klatt, I think you're up.
I,
Can you hear me okay?
okay,
All right. Just looking at the agenda.
wait a minute.
Teachers for the last
I think you need to turn your phone off.
raises.
All right, hang on.
Okay.
All right, now, looking at the agenda tonight, I see that you are probably going to approve over $10 million in spending with very little discussion. And I would think that our public, our parents, our taxpayers deserve at least minimal discussion. One of the items is supplemental academic instruction money, which is a legislative created fund for the supplemental academic instruction for kindergarten through 12th grade. It's not limited to the use of modified curriculums, reading instruction, after-school instruction, tutoring, mentoring, reduction in class sizes, extended school years, and dropout prevention, and other methods of improving student achievement. I think the legislative intent was to have this money benefit students and student achievement. Yet, one of your items is adding or taking this money and using it for additional administrators, additional assistant principals. I think that, personally, I think that violates the intent of the legislature on the use of this money, and I think our students deserve the additional academic instruction. Another item is you're approving an allocation plan that's not really been negotiated with the union. And I can think of no single document other than the contract that has more impact on the teacher's general work condition than the allocation plan. And finally, I am really glad that now we are finally discussing reopening ideas and look forward to negotiating a memorandum of understanding on reopening our public schools to our teacher and student benefits. Thank you very much.
Very good. I believe we have one more, Miss Charlene Campbell.
Chairman, in
Oh,
response,
yeah.
can we pull 9.03 to get some additional clarification on the pertains to the SAI?
Yes, we can.
All right, thanks.
9.03 is thinking maps. Oh, wait, sorry, that's 10.03. 9.03, the additional staffing allocation.
Right.
Got it.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, Charlene Campbell.
Oops.
Charlene, if you're,
You're muted.
yeah,
Okay, now am I okay?
You're good.
yes, please go ahead.
I am very seldom ever muted. Enjoy that moment. I just want to express some concerns about the start of school next year and some considerations for that, particularly pertaining to speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. We all know that the COVID-19 virus is being spread through respiratory droplets, through sneezing, coughing, and talking. Well, I know that there's not a therapist out there that hasn't been sneezed on, coughed on, and they're in the business of talking with them. This is also going to apply to teachers, music teachers who are working with singing and choral responses in the classroom for all classroom teachers. I just have some concerns about how we're going to keep our children safe and how we're going to keep our teachers safe as they are in those precarious positions. I was just reading today an article from an epidemiologist in Tulane that was talking about the 3 Ds that would increase the higher risk categories. And one of them was diversity, the number of households. Well, anytime we're having students, we're going to have a group of them when we're doing a therapy situation. So that's going to be increasing. Distance, they're going to be in close proximity while they're working in any kind of therapy, particularly in the case of an SLP who's doing placement therapy of oral mechanisms, but also OTs and PTs. And duration, where they're going to be with those students for half an hour at a time in a high talking situation. So I'm just hoping that those unique circumstances can be taken into account as you are looking at how to reopen school next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Okay, moving on, we have attorney report.
We have one more. You have Kathy Smith.
Oh, excuse me, Kathy Smith. Kathy, you're up. You just need to unmute.
Okay, I did.
Showtime. Go ahead. Ms. Smith, it's your time.
Go ahead, Kathy.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Superintendent and school board members. I'm Kathy Smith, LCA Vice President. I have several items here. 9.03. I am unmuted, correct?
You're unmuted. I think what we're hearing is your phone, or what you're hearing. I don't know. That seems to be what happened before.
Oh, if you're watching yourself, there's a delay. So we hear you
I have
fine.
several items. Is it okay now?
Yeah,
Yes,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
9.03, LCA has brought this item to your attention before. FEA attorneys have stated it is improper to use SAI funds for administrators since Florida statute states the funds are to be used for supplementary academic instruction, hence the name SAI. The fund should be used, for example, to pay for intensive reading teachers and coaches. But this year, Lake County would like to use literacy coaches to teach intensive reading classes. So you do not need to hire as many intensive reading teachers. Administrators do not directly help with classroom instruction, which is the intent of SAI funds. If you pass this item, the administrators should at least take care of the instructional needs of the teachers, like handling the student discipline issues. 10.04, Career Pathways Articulation Agreement states it will be of no cost to the district, which may be true of the agreement itself, but what about the person overseeing the project? Will this person be Dr. Boone, who was recently transferred to her new position as a liaison? If this is correct, then you have added another administrative position, because as positions trickle down and change, you will need another administrator. 10.09, Professional Development Agreement with Solution Tree. Another $8,300 spent on PD for a person to speak about transforming school culture. It's on June 17th. Really? Why? Lake County has stated there is no money for teacher raises, yet continues to spend money as usual. All these little pockets of money do add up, especially when you continually say there is no money for teachers. 10.13, out-of-state duty leave. Why? It was stated a while back that Lake County was not spending money for these type of items. Do we really need to spend almost $15,000 for 2 regional administrators to attend an academy? Oh, and by the way, you need to add another $7,600 to that number because the 3rd regional person's attendance was voted on back in May. Now the total is roughly $23,000. Yes, I know it states that it's from their budget, but what if Lake County departments cut their budgets to help pay for teacher raises? And last, 10.14, why do you need to spend almost $35,000 on a virtual AVID training? NEA, AFT, AFL-CIO, and FEA have all provided their trainings and conferences virtually. No payment required. Please think about what and how you are spending your money on. Teachers do deserve a raise. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. And moving on, we have the attorney report.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I just have one thing. I think I sent a memo around to all the board members and the superintendent regarding the most recent executive order. Well, it was the most recent last week. 20-139, which essentially is going to apparently take away the ability to have meetings where a quorum is not present physically at the meeting location. Now, that may change between now and then. A lot of these emergency executive orders have modified previous orders, so we're not exactly sure when that's going to happen. But if nothing were to change, beginning June 30th or July 1, we would have to make arrangements to have meetings in the manner that we did before. I will point out that our board policy 2.22 does allow for school board members to participate in the school board meetings and to vote who are not physically present at the meeting, but who participate through the use of interactive video or telephone systems. There's a list of particular items, including having to be confined at home due to illness or accident, or in situation where member's absence is due to a death or serious illness of an immediate family member. There was also provision for where a school board member is conducting school board business in another location. There is also the ability to revise those, and probably ought to take a look to see what Neola says in theirs. to include other situations, and obviously the existence of a pandemic, which requires people to stay home, would be a legitimate reason to include in a policy like that. But we'll know more as we get closer, but for the moment at least, we will need to have at least a majority or quorum after July 1st physically present here or at the county building in order to continue to hold meetings. Any questions?
I already spoke with you about I had some concerns because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, obviously. Mark or Stephanie, did you guys? Okay. All right. Okay, then let's move on. So we didn't want to pull anything else, right?
Correct.
So go ahead, we have unfinished business and there's nothing. And then, so we have the new business consent agenda. Superintendent?
And I'd like, just before I recommend the items for consent agenda, I'd just like to remind you all and the public that if you go through the cost of these items, it was mentioned a minute ago about $10 million in cost. As you go through these, you're going to see that almost all of them are coming from grant funding or other restricted funding sources that cannot be used for raises. And so I'd like to just remind everyone of that we're very cautious of monies that are coming out of general funds. And so if you look through, even if you just scroll down, you'll see that there's food service, there's the school safety grant, there's capital funds, which are restricted funds and cannot be used for other purposes for some of these technologies purchases. Food service, again, sales tax money, all of these things that are restricted to other funds. And so I would go back and I would look to see, is there anything that is truly impacting the general fund? And you'll see that there's very few. One that I will bring to your attention is this 10.13, the out-of-state travel for our regional directors that are participating in this National Principal Supervisors Academy. This is year-long training, something that they've been a part of. And right now, this is currently being paid out of our current leadership grant, but the leadership grant for next year, when this actually takes place, is not available yet. So our intent is, as soon as that leadership grant is available, we will redesignate these funds and put them back, and we'll move the funding into the leadership grant. So that was one that I did want to call your attention to, because we do typically, it's not currently paid out of the leadership grant, but it will be once the state reissues the leadership grant. So there are no more questions about that. I'm going to go ahead and recommend consent agenda approval of items 8.01 to 8.26, 8.28, 8.30 to 9.02, and 9.04 to 10.16.
So moved.
Second.
Second. You're good. First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so we need to go back to 9.03, correct?
Correct.
And I had requested to pull this one just to get the clarification out for the public, because I think we've seen from both LCEA leaders this one come forward, questioning the ability to use SAI dollars on administrators. Dr. Weiskopf, you had sent us a statute earlier in the week, which alluded to a list of items that you could use it for, and then it really kind of had an open end there at the end about and other methods of improving student achievement. So I guess if we feel that administrators affect student achievement, then it seems that statute covers it. Is that right? Is that your understanding, or I guess can you just clarify that for us, please?
Mr. Johnson
Sure.
can speak to it.
I do know that Mr. Johnson also was going to speak to it as well, but I just want to remind you that we do use those fundings. Those are above and they're supplemental is how they're paid for. So when you think about supplemental, that this does mean above and beyond, like that's the purpose of supplemental support. So thinking about that, I think when you said, Mark, that it can be used for that, it does have some ways. I do believe that administrators do support students and student achievement, and I think that it is a way that we can utilize those funds within our parameters. And I don't know if Mr. Johnson wants to speak any more to that. I also wanted to remind you that on page 2 of the allocation plan that we have had in place for many years, there's a whole section on special instructional units, and it talks about supporting and adding extra support where needed. And this is one of the ways we do that with a different funding source. So we've been doing that for many years. So that it doesn't look any different than it has in the past. And so it does fit within, also fits within that parameter of those special instructional units on number 5. So I think that but instead of using general funds, we use supplemental money, the SAI funding. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to add?
Yes, please.
No, other than, that was brought up that what the legislature's intent was, well, if it's clear from the statute, you don't have to look at anybody's intent. You can read it like it should be read. And this particular statute specifically gives a long list of items which may be included under supplemental academic instruction allocations, and then starts that with may include, but is not limited to, so that would lead you to believe that it's broader even than it's written. And at the end of that sentence says that in other methods of improving student achievement. It would seem to me that the only way that would not be proper was if you were proposing to do something that was not a method that would potentially improve student achievement. There was also a statement about what FEA's attorney's opinion was. I haven't been provided with that opinion. I don't know what it is, and I sometimes don't agree with what their opinions are about different things. So I would
He's fading. You're fading out, Mr. Johnson.
I would read it the way it's written, and under the circumstances and how I understand the money to be spent, I think it's appropriate.
Okay.
And one other question I have, I know that these administrative positions are not new. We've been funding these for many years. So has this been the funding source, the SAI dollars for these positions in the past?
Yes, sir, it has.
All right. Okay.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? Or we should actually motion and then discuss, shouldn't we?
Actually, let the superintendent.
I have, excuse me just one second, I do have one other comment. So from what I'm hearing is, number one, it's legal. Number two, we've been doing it for years. So why have now 2 people from the LCEA brought it up? Do we know? And I guess they're gone, right? I don't see them on the screen.
Well, I think they said that, if their teachers won't get raises if we do business as usual. So that's what I heard, was that they want a different business, but we are in the business of teaching and we need principals to teach.
Well, the other thing to consider is that this is SAI dollars. Once again, this is not a source of teacher raises.
You couldn't use those dollars for raises.
Right.
You could not.
Yeah. Okay, let's vote. Done.
All right.
I recommend approval of item 9.03, the additional staffing allocations for those schools listed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to the discussion. We have final approval of attendance boundary adjustments for developing areas for the 2021 school year. This is the final approval. Very good. Cool.
All right. We'll defer to
Mr. Johnson, I believe this is a hearing?
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
It's Mr. Johnson.
Yes, the matter before the board is the final approval for the attendance boundary adjustments for developing areas for the 2020-2021 school year. If there's anyone that wishes to speak to this, then please indicate that you want to speak to this now. Madam Chairman, I don't see anyone requesting to be heard on this matter, and my understanding was that there were no cards submitted on this particular item, so I believe that appropriate to close the public hearing.
Okay, very good. Superintendent?
I recommend Approval of item 11.01, final approval of attendance boundary adjustments for the developing areas for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, have two firsts.
Second.
Very good. I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Tentative approval of the policies. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Before we get started, we're looking to pass the policies all in one large group, and there was one that we're aware of that is still hanging out there that needs some comment, I think, before we submit all of the policies in one group to be approved, and that's the definition of a directory information under the student records section. And that, I believe you received a memorandum from Elizabeth on Friday. And what we tried to do was to point out what the current Neola policy was, and then the items that have been under those policies and the definition of directory information, and we just broke them out. All the ones that are in FERPA are numbered 1 through 14. Now, Mr. Dodd, in relation to your earlier information about disclosing certain information to different categories of people as being a method to limit directory information, we did look at that, and Neola's attorneys agree with us that that's the part of the federal law, and that's how it's interpreted. However, FERPA is implemented in Florida under Florida's Public Records Act. And under Florida's Public Records Act, whether it's subject to another federal law or not, you're not allowed to request of people to provide to the school district what their purpose is and why they're asking for that information. They're allowed to get that without that restrictions. So that limitation wouldn't work. FERPA is taking the position that you can pick and choose from this list of 15 different items. Oh, excuse me. Neola is suggesting that you can pick and choose from the list that we have because that's how they're interpreting FERPA. We disagree with that, quite frankly. I think that the administrative code that's interpreting FERPA says that this is directory information. You can probably add more to that, but it said you have to have that minimum. Now, Neola has said they're going to defend these policies at their cost. So if that becomes an issue, then they will come in and deal with it. And under their interpretation, you can pick and choose which of the 15 you want to include or include none of them. There's a problem that arises, though, when you start eliminating too many of these directory information items because, for example, it starts number 9 or 10, dates of attendance at school, participation in recognized activities in sports. That means that if somebody asks for the information of who's on your football team or at the next one, weight and height of members of athletic teams, information like that, you would not be able to provide it, unless you went back to the parents to get permission to do so. So but there are some. I'm not sure that it's necessary for someone to have all of our students' addresses, home telephone numbers, and email addresses. These days, there may be some reason that I'm unaware of for the email addresses to be made available, but date and place of birth, I'm not sure why someone would need that information. So before we go through and finish up these policies, we'd like to at least address this one and see what the board's preference is. We can deal with it with what we've submitted already and include that in the package. And then then the discussion only needs to be on the 15 items, which or any of those do you want to include in directory information. We can okay that one and then put it in the group with all the other policies for
Or we
later.
could pull it out, right?
Sir?
We could pull that one out.
Yeah, but we're trying to do them all at one time. It would almost be better if we went ahead and approved it in some fashion, and then we come back for final approval, then we can deal with it. We're going to have to bring them back for a second time anyway.
Right.
And if,
Is there a real reason we need to approve this one at the same time?
ma'am?
We could bring it back, right?
Yes, we could bring it, they can bring them all back. I would point out that when we're going to talk about it in just a minute, the policies, but I can assure you from my review of the policies that even though all the folks have read them, there are mistakes in those policies. I'm fairly confident of that we're going to find some. So there are going to be other policies that are going to have to come back and be revised to be corrected. This one is not necessarily in that category because it's not being corrected. We just need to decide which way we want to go on providing the directory information. And probably, if we want to wait on that decision, then it would be best to approve it with all of the specific 15 items, and then before the final approval, delete those ones that you don't want to include.
But what is the harm of pulling that one and it just trails the rest? I'm not keen on voting, and then we're going to, before the next reading, we're going to take some stuff out.
Okay.
Me personally.
I think
I actually agree with
it
Bill.
helps a lot to have the policies all done at the same time. If we have certain policies that are later on, there's going to be potential issues with it.
We only have one, this one.
Well, if that, yeah. We can do that one
Mr.
separately if
Dodd, would you
want
like to speak?
I agree with Bill on this one as well. I feel uncomfortable voting on a policy that I know is not complete or that we know we're going to change later. Last thing I want to do is vote on a policy that says we're going to give the date and place of birth of all of our kids, and then we know that we're not going to do that. It just sends the wrong message out there to the public of what our goals are. So I'd rather iron this one out before we vote on this one. If that means separating it, then we separate it, or I don't know if we get a staff recommendation first on what pieces of directory information would be critical to provide, or which ones don't really have some harm in them.
Mr. Dodd, just one sec. We got a news flash.
A news flash.
This is Elizabeth. I just wanted to note that this section, the directory information, is also in the Code of Student Conduct, which is coming for a workshop the 16th. So you will be discussing, this is going to be, I guess, for discussion anyway. And so you can, if we pulled the policy, you'll have a chance to discuss it. Or if you adopt the policy for tentative approval, you can always discuss it at that time.
But aren't we under the old policy until such time as we approve this one,
Yes, sir.
which also has the student code of conduct in it?
The Student Code of Conduct and all of these, most of these
So
things.
if we're under the old policy, then that wouldn't hold up our student code of conduct then, because we'd be acting under the old student code.
Unless you change they're
Correct.
talking about next year's code of conduct. If
You're
you change
reviewing
the
next year's code of
policy, it
student-
changes the code of conduct.
I thought I understood her to say that we could work on this policy when we worked on the student code conduct in a couple weeks.
No, that's not what she said.
Oh,
Say it again.
What I was
What she might
saying,
have said it.
what I was saying is, if you tentatively adopted this one tonight, you're still going to have an opportunity before final approval to be workshopping this topic of directory information. So you could discuss it at the workshop on June 16th, make the changes, and then those changes would be for final approval, like Mr. Johnson suggested.
How does that affect student code of conduct then? Which is what
This language is also in Student Code of Conduct. So you'll be workshopping the Code of Student Conduct, and whatever you decide you want to be included in directory information would be made at the time for final approval of the
But
code.
if we pulled the policy
Yes, sir.
and workshopped the policy and the student code of conduct, what harm have we done?
You're just not adopting them in total, I think, which is the intention was to do.
That one will lag behind the rest, simply because it has to remain out there for public input for X number of days. So you're going to have one that's going to lag behind all the others, and it's one that's critical because of the impact on the Code of Conduct and us having it in place to start school August the 10th. So we're going to run into a timing issue. Whereas if you just adopt it tentatively, you're not saying you agree to it. We know that we're going to be bringing back others possibly for revisions along the way. Then you can fix it on June the 16th in the workshop. And then when we come to final approval, you'll have your amended version. So it's
But-
accomplishing the same thing, but it's not pulling out this one out of the mix and delaying it behind all the others is all it's.
But when we asked for public input on the documents that were online, and were we not saying this is what we were going to adopt
Tentatively.
tentatively?
If we
I'm
change
confused by that
anything-
because we haven't been able to make substantial changes to a document in the past.
That's
Although-
what I was just about to say.
Yeah, I was
You can only make very limited changes to the policy between now and the time we finally approve them. Changing the entire definition is going to be required to advertise a new policy.
So what are you saying?
I
Then we
think
can decide
he's
this
saying we
now,
either-
I think, for the most
Oh,
part.
Mr. Johnson's
we-
saying, wait a minute, time out. Another breaking news. He can make the recommendation now and we'll be good to go.
Is that
So,
what you're saying?
I mean, it depends on what the board's intent. Do you want no information provided or as little as humanly possible?
little as possible.
And that's not going to be that difficult. Why don't we just go through the list and see?
Okay, you good with that, everybody?
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the name, I think, needs to stay, obviously.
So with us on Hollywood Squares, are we just gonna like raise our hand when we agree, or?
Oh, good idea.
How do you, okay, so go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
The name is one.
You guys need to get on board.
We have to give the name?
Include the name.
Shouldn't it be numbered anyway?
They are numbered.
No, but if you are a college and you want to send mailings to all of the students, you have to know the people's names.
That's true.
Or I want the weights and heights of all your athletic people, but you don't know who they are. You just have a list of weights.
Yes.
You got to have a name.
I think
Okay.
the
But
name
then you need
is
an
pretty
address.
The
critical.
name is pretty critical, I think.
Essential.
Okay, next.
Okay.
Address, home address. That's a no? One
No,
yes?
I'm waiting, yes.
Address.
Address.
What good does a name do you without an address?
Yeah,
Stephanie, are you good? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You
next.
need to hold your thumb up, Stephanie. Your thumb. Telephone listing.
I go with that.
Is that a no?
Mine's a yes.
I know yours is, but I see one no.
I mean, who even
one yes.
has a telephone?
I have one of those.
Okay, that's a
I have a
yes.
home phone too, just so you know.
Oh,
Email address.
So we decide yes or no on that one?
that I say yes to.
Okay.
Oh, you say yes to the
So
email?
what are we?
No.
See, I would give out an email before I would give out any of the other information.
We are
You can always
now
make
on
another email.
Email address.
You're losing the crowd.
I see no votes for
I
email.
go
address.
yes for email.
If you
Yeah,
go
I'm
to the
okay with
phone
email.
address, yeah.
Email's fine. What do we decide on telephone? Is it a yes on telephone?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Photograph. No.
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 Uh-uh.
No.
We deal with that elsewhere in the code of conduct.
Seems inappropriate.
Date and place of birth.
No.
No.
Oh,
Everybody agree with
So
that?
they want the date for the age.
that's what I was wondering. Is that recruiting?
That's what that's for. So that's for research purposes. So for your demographics.
But
I'm
great.
just saying. I
So
don't
you
care
want
what-
date? Date of birth, I guess, okay, but where they were born? Eh.
That seems a little bit
Why does
invasive.
it matter? Why does it matter where you were born?
I don't think it does.
Does
So
it matter
can we
for
just do the date? Can we just do the date of birth?
Research?
Date of birth.
Not, not
Okay,
that
I go
know
date
of.
of birth, thumb up.
Date
Date
of
of
birth.
birth.
Date of birth.
Date of birth?
Yep.
Just the date, not the place. Okay.
Okay.
What's that, 4-1?
No, I'm fine. I can go along with that one.
Why didn't you see your thumb?
Major field of study.
We don't even have
Doesn't
that.
really apply to our students, I don't think.
Okay, then no.
Does anybody want major field of study? No? Okay. Grade level.
Yeah.
They just got
Do
the
they-
date of birth.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
equate to grade level though, not necessarily.
What?
So you know, you want to, I don't
That
know,
could
call-
also be on athletic
to all the
teams.
juniors, right? Or
Say-
college board wants to send a mailer to all the sophomores.
Right.
Right,
Mhm.
How would you do that if you don't have the grade level?
right. That's
So-
what I was thinking.
Thumb up.
Okay, we're good on that.
Okay. Enrollment status, for example, undergraduate or graduate, full-time or part-time. I don't even think that applies to our students.
No.
No, I don't think so either.
But would it count if they were dual enrolled? Would that be part of it?
But none of them are graduate dual
Yeah,
enrolled.
yeah.
until-
Go ahead, X that one.
Dates of attendance. I've never quite understood what that one's supposed to be for.
Yeah, I thumbed that one.
See if they're really
No.
into it.
No.
I don't think that one matters.
Participation in officially recognized activities and sports.
Yes.
Participation and yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Weight and height of members of athletic team. Dr. Burns doesn't like that category.
Well, if it's a football scholarship and he's a lineman, they want to know how much he weighs.
Rules? It's so rude.
But to me, on some of that right there on athletics, they're going to know because they've sent scouts out to see who they are.
And that's fine, but we don't
Right.
have to send stats.
No, I'm not saying we send stats, that they will be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I think we provide this one in the form of a trading card.
I was just wondering, and I don't know the answer to this, would there be an unintended consequence for us not providing that information in public record form for a student athlete?
Go ahead.
That's what I'm nervous about. I'm nervous that we set somebody else up with a lack of opportunity because we didn't provide some information easily to somebody.
Right.
Yeah,
Or-
so,
But the weight and height,
right?
we don't even keep that information, do we?
Well, you just recognized a high school athlete, for example, for her achievements at state level, and that's the kind of reason why you do want to have this information available.
Right. As a matter of fact, he said her
Said
weight.
her weight.
Right.
He did.
Yes.
98 pounds.
Yep.
He said her
So-
weight class. He didn't
It's
say her
going to
weight.
be in the football
Oh,
team
that's
program.
true. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
He did state her weight. He also stated
Weight
her weight
class.
class. No, he
He
stated
said
her
her weight
weight.
class.
No, he
stated-
said she was 98 pounds.
Yes.
That's right.
Moving right
Oh,
along.
okay. Sorry, I
Pay
missed up.
attention, Emily.
13
That's
is
a lot.
degrees.
What now?
Degrees.
feel
That
like we
doesn't
have a-
apply.
There's a
Doesn't
girl-boy difference on this one.
No, that,
Like,
that was a young lady. Isn't that fun? I don't know. I think it's not going to hurt, and if it's for academic and sports reasons.
yeah, if it's for sports, I think it's fine.
But we
Okay.
can't qualify it, right? I was understanding that, right, Steve? We can't qualify the reason we would or wouldn't give any of this information.
Right.
Yeah. But I
Well,
don't think
for
someone's going to randomly ask for
Two specific
weight.
requesters, no.
They better
It
not.
does say athletic teams, though, actually. I just looked at the list.
Okay.
So
Go
that's
ahead.
helpful.
Next.
Degrees is a
No,
no.
that's not applicable.
Honors and awards received. I would assume that's yes.
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 Most recent educational agency or institution attended.
Good.
Is that, yeah.
Oh, that's just the school.
Yeah, that's just a school for.
That's not, I don't think that's a problem.
That's it. So the recommendation from the superintendent, I think, is going to be for us to go ahead with the policy that's attached to the memo, June 5th, 2020, or,
Very good.
the-
Yeah, so,
okay. Then that portion of the policy, which has the definition of directory information, will include the items that we just approved, which is student's name, address, telephone listing, electronic mail address, date of birth, grade level, participation in activities and sports, weight and height of members of athletic teams, honors and awards received, and most recent educational agency or institution attended. And then
Mr.
that
Dodd, did
policy
you have
will
a
be
question?
included in the booklet.
Go ahead, Mr. Dodd.
oh, thanks. I just had a comment and one, well, thank you to you and Elizabeth for looking into that federal code that I had questions on. I guess this is not surprisingly a shortcoming in Florida, right, where the state law is a bit different than what federal regulations allow us to do. It's unfortunate that we can't leverage that federal portion that says we can define which parties receive this or for which purposes because of Florida records law being in conflict. To me, this seems like one where the legislature, if they understood that kind of conflict, maybe they might be willing to say, yeah, let's protect our kids and find out who's receiving this information. This is one I'd like to ask about come next session to have our legislative team decide whether or not this is one they'll advocate for and see if we can kind of close that records law a little bit to find out, who's receiving the date of birth of all of our students and why they need their addresses. I just don't think that's too much to ask.
Very good. Let's do it.
Yeah. Agree.
Superintendent?
I think we're,
Your mic's
yeah,
on.
we're waiting for her
Okay.
recommendation once she puts it all together.
Your mic is on. Oh, are you done?
Yes,
He has to open up for.
but we're
public-
at the next item now, I think.
You already did public input. Huh?
He hasn't done 1102 yet.
This item is
We don't vote on-
tentative
we don't vote on
approval
first.
of school board policies. The item before the board is tentative approval of school board policies, which include all policies that will be enforced by the school board after final approval. I believe we have discussed them at several different workshops and have provided copies of the policies in board docs. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to these particular policies, then I assume there are no cards of any kind. Dr. Weisskopf?
That's correct. There are no.
Okay.
I think we wore everybody out of that 4.5 hour meeting that we talked about these.
So I don't believe there's anyone waiting outside, and there's no one here that's available to speak to this particular item, so I believe it would be appropriate to close the public hearing, Madam Chairman.
Very good. Superintendent?
I recommend approval, tentative approval of the policies with the exception of policy 8330, which has been amended, and I recommend tentative approval with the amendments as discussed a few minutes ago.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And we have our tentative approval of rescinding policies.
Yes, Madam
Mr.
Chairman.
Johnson?
Item 1103 is tentative approval of rescinding the policy since the action that we just took is tentative approval for passing all the new policies drafted by Neola will impact all of the policies that currently exist. It will be necessary to rescind all of the current policies so that they're no longer in effect at the time the Neola policies take effect, which will be at whatever meeting the Neola policies will be placed for final approval. I don't believe there are any cards or emails directed towards this particular item. Is that correct, Dr. Weisskopf?
That is correct.
And there is nobody here this evening to speak to that matter, so I believe it appropriate to close the public hearing, Madam Chairman.
All right, very good. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend tentative approval of the rescinding policies as noted in board docs.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to the superintendent report.
So you may have seen, if not, they are available via our website and social media pages. We did launch both a faculty and staff survey, a reopening survey, as well as a parent and student survey, two separate documents. where we're collecting feedback about the reopening plans and the level of comfort and some of the security measures that we'd like to have in place when school reopens. And so we would encourage everyone to go online and complete that survey and give us their feedback. And also, we are excited that graduation week is finally here. We are praying that it does not rain on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, at least during the times that we have graduation ceremonies. And we just want to congratulate the class of 2020, and we know that we're going to have some great ceremonies later this week. So those were the only thing I had, other than 2 letters of condolences. One, Patricia Johnston, she's a mental health specialist in our student services department, passed away. And then Verna Longo, who was the mother, Barbara Longo, the principal at Oak Park Middle School, also passed away. So condolences to those families.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Board member comments? Mr. Dodd?
All right, sure, I'll be happy to kick it off. First off, I think tonight's meeting is a great testament to the value of our workshops. To the untrained public eye, it looks like we just took so much action without even really talking about it, and really that couldn't be further from the truth. Over hours and hours and hours of workshops have we labored over these policies, the allocations plan, the staffing plan. This is, not just some sort of rubber stamp of approval. I think we all asked some pretty good questions about all of these things and really scrutinized each document. So just a testament to the value of the workshops that we do and how much work goes into this particular meeting before we actually take that vote. With that, I have a couple of kudos here. One, fiscal responsibility, that our staffing plan reduces the funding level in the general funds. So a great job for freeing up some dollars there. And also, I gotta say, it's great to be proactive with the attendance boundaries, that we've shifted some boundaries before people have even moved into them, so they know what they're getting before they build a house, and so that's wonderful news. One other piece of information to share is that my appointee to the audit committee, Don Lucas, has served us well over the last 5 years or so, but he is going to need to step down from that role. So I have tapped Vance Yoakum to take that spot, so he'll be joining that group.
Very good. Ms. Lou?
I had also, I won't repeat, but I have definitely wanted to mention the hard work of the policies that were put into the policies by the staff and the board, and just thank you for that. I also wanted to say we're looking forward to graduation. I had the opportunity to help the Celebrating Heroes group today with the banners, and I just want to thank them again. Timothy Totten, Celebrating Heroes banners are up everywhere. You guys have probably now seen them up and about, and it's such a testament to the community and how they've all come together to wrap their arms around our seniors, and we're all really excited for their graduation this week. The last thing that I wanted to mention, I know that item 10.09 was spoken about, and I've been feeling very convicted. I want to just thank the superintendent for her statement on the tragic death of George Floyd. I know that education is a catalyst for change, and that thinking about having someone come and speak to our administrators about transforming our school culture is an excellent way to kick off some momentum for some real tough and critical, courageous conversations that need to be had. And so $8,300 is well spent, in my opinion. And I appreciate the leadership, because again, I'm going to say that I think that education is the utmost importance in this time frame for what our nation is experiencing. So I am looking forward to being there myself and for hearing those words of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gamble?
Yes, just wanted to say I'll be attending 2 of the graduations this week, Thursday and Saturday mornings. And I've been asked by one administrator, please pray together that be no rain. So we want to move toward that all of these graduations will get off with no problems with rain. But, and the thing is, this has been a controversial thing this year, worse than last year. And so, but I applaud the superintendent, her staff, and also the principals and how they've brought this together. So I just ask the parents and the public to please bear with them. And as we move forward with this, and let's have a great graduation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mathias?
Just one sec, the superintendent has a redo.
I forgot one thing. We had a workshop scheduled for June the 18th. That was a Thursday. That was to bring to you the student progression plan and the code of conduct. It has been requested that we consider moving that to Tuesday, the 16th at 1 p.m. And so if there is no objection or if you have no conflicts, we'd like to consider the move to Tuesday, the 16th at 1 p.m.
That's fine for me.
I'm good with it.
Good.
Mr.
Right.
Johnson, you had a concern?
No, I want to make sure about one thing before we finish this evening. That is that I didn't look at it before I came over, but just to make sure that the board needs to continue to vote to approve whether your extraordinary authority continues until the next meeting.
Let's just go ahead and do it, and then that way it's done. If we don't need it, we don't need it. We need it, we got it.
Well, you need a vote.
We need to vote.
Well, first we need to have a meeting. So is the 16th good with everybody?
Oh, yes, and the 16th is fine.
You good? All good? Okay, now we're done. Now, Mr. Johnson, can we help you?
Vote.
Oh, we need to vote. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the authority of the superintendent and until such time as we don't need to do that.
Wait, can we do that without paper, without like it advertised?
Yes, actually, the original resolution said that you would do it at each meeting after this.
Okay, very good.
So I guess it was my turn
So
since I
moved
had
in
no
a second,
comments.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ow.
Motion passes. Who are we on, Mr. Matthias?
Well, me. So,
Okay.
so I'm really looking forward to, again, this graduation. And I have two schools. I'll be there Thursday and on my birthday Friday. And so I'm really looking forward to it. I really, really, really hope it doesn't rain because this has certainly been a special moment for all of us as we've gone through the planning and replanning. And so anyone within the sound of my voice, pray and we'll get through this together. That's it.
Very good. I also am going to graduation this week. I do have an opportunity to speak, believe it's at 6:30 on Thursday for the Democratic Party in general, on education in general. And I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Totten for the Celebrating Heroes banners and all of the team that worked on that. I know that was expensive and hard and a lot of work, and I really appreciate that you spent so much time for our children. And that's really all I have. So at this point, please gavel us out, Mr. Matthias. We're adjourned.